You ready?
Yep.
You're like 9 feet tall. Can we swap spots?
Well, I am taller than you in real life, so this really just sends that home. Okay, fine. Fine, you can have the tall ground.
Oh, I'm just kidding. I don't want our viewers thinking I'm that guy. We're installing solar panels today. 10 years ago, my wife and I tried going off-grid in a tiny house, and we did not have all the skills, knowledge, and tools we have today. If we had had a killer solar panel system like this, we would have made it in that tiny house. But we didn't have the knowledge, the skills, the contacts, or the tools. So we were smoked out of that hot tiny house during a Georgia summer after 5 nights.
Tell them the best part, my favorite part.
That we didn't have air conditioning for 5 nights in a Georgia summer?
No, about the fridge.
Oh, we used a cooler that was not powered with ice that would melt after like an hour or two for the fridge. It was dismal. It was like The Walking Dead out there, because we had all the theory about how to live off grid. We didn't have any of the hands-on experience that we have now. So start small, tackle little steps one at a time, and get you some solar panels. Behind me, I've got 8 350-watt solar panels for a total wattage of 2,800 watts of solar power collected and then sent back to the micro cabin for our consumption. Solar panels have come such a long way in the last few decades, and the prices have just dropped, which is phenomenal for off-grid living. You could honestly live pretty comfortably in a super small off-grid setup with 1 or 2 of these panels. With all 8 of these panels, we can power air conditioning, a small refrigerator, lights, computers, cell phones, even Ben's Xbox. You can typically estimate, at least here in 2023, that for every watt of power, the panel will cost about $1. So a 350-watt panel will cost about $350. With my loafers and this sweater, I felt a little bit like an off-grid Mr. Rogers today.
I like that.
Could that be our vibe?
That's our
off-grid
vibe.
Mr. Rogers?
That's our new vibe, off-grid Mr. Rogers.
Will you be my off-grid friend? Is that what he says?
I don't know, but
Okay.
that probably shouldn't be our slogan.
Okay, that's fair. So these are MC4 connectors. These are the connectors to connect solar panels together.
The way I remember that is M for mom. I love my mom. And then C4 is one of my favorite things to use in one of my favorite games, Call of Duty. So when I look at these, I'm like, I love my mom, and I like C4 from Call of Duty. MC4.
All right, so Joe's connecting that last juncture there. These 4 are now in line. We're gonna leave this last one unconnected because those need extension cables going to the combiner box.
Yes. I just want to point out, as someone who has never done anything with solar before, this has been extremely simple so far. We're literally just plugging them together.
Plug and play.
If the rest of this setup is just as streamlined, then solar is far less complicated than I thought.
So I've got a female connector and a male connector. We're connecting this group of 4 panels, which total is 1,400 watts of power. And 1,400 watts of power, that's a lot of power to work with. We've got double that here, 2,800 watts. The average US family uses about 30 kilowatts of power per day, give or take. So a kilowatt is 1,000 watts. So we've got 2.8 kilowatts of power being gathered here. So during 1 hour of full sunlight, you can collect 2.8 kilowatts of power. MC4 solar panel connector. And see these little prongs? These lock this in together so they don't pull apart. You don't want to lose power because, a fox tripped and disconnected your solar panel system. There are 2 types of solar panels. Monocrystalline panels, which are very efficient, made from 1 crystal of silicon. Let's say silicon. They don't call it Silicon Valley, do they?
No, they don't.
Right. Monocrystalline panels are more efficient because they're made from 1 crystal of silicon, but they're more expensive. Polycrystalline panels are made of many crystals of silicon, so they're more affordable. But typically, solar panels are going to range from $1 to $2 per watt of power. So our 400-watt panel over there, it costs about $400. This is the combiner box. So this box is going to be positioned near the solar panels outdoors. These 2 groupings of panels will plug in to these MC4 connectors at the bottom of the combiner box. This awesome giant red switch, which looks like something from like Star Wars or some epic movie, this turns on and off the power that goes to the micro cabin. This combiner box takes the power from both groups of solar panels and then combines it into both of these wires. So all the power is being directed into just these 2 cables. So we've got our positive and negative here, and then we've got these lugs on the end which will bolt on to the power board, where the power is then stored in the batteries and then converted into 120 volt AC power. Because the power from these solar panels is DC, direct current. It's just a steady flow. AC, 120 volt AC is what we're used to in our homes. AC current switches back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in polarity because it helps the power move along the power lines more efficiently. So this is gonna be DC power going to the power board. This combiner box takes all the power from the panels, simplifies it, aggregates it, combines it, if you will, into just these two cables. We're going to drill a hole in the floor of the micro cabin, run these up, and then we'll use extension cables to plug the combiner box into these solar panel groupings. All right, Joe, are you ready?
I guess we are.
I guess we are. I'm gonna run these over to the base of the tiny home, the micro cabin. It's not a tiny home, it's a micro cabin.
Whatever we call this.
It's a micro cabin. All right, so we'll drill a hole back there in a moment, but for now, let's go ahead and connect up this extension cables. Red is positive, black is negative or neutral, if you will. Gotta match up the colors. All right, click, and then I'm just plugging in the number 1 position for both the positive and the neutral. Click, click. All right, we'll run these out. Okay. Sometimes the cables can be a little tricky to get together and you need to get like a little needle nose plier just to kind of help jiggle the lead.
We need to jiggle it.
Yeah, we need to jiggle it. This is just something I've noticed in the manufacturing process. Sometimes that little metal pole down there, that contact can be a little off center. So I just get some needle nose pliers and I'll just gently bend it down a little. Happy little contact there. Happy little contact.
Are we the Bob Ross of Off Grid now?
The Bob Ross meets the Mr. Rogers. I think that's a really great spot for us to be.
I'll be Bob Ross. You can be Mr. Rogers.
There it is. Click. Okay, that's connected. Now let's connect up some more happy little contacts. Got my extension cables over here, positive and negative. Positive male connector here, and then the female neutral connector. We'll take this down to the second group of our panels. It is so satisfying snapping all these MC4 connectors together. That grouping of 4 panels is running into the combiner box. That grouping of 4 panels is also running into the combiner box. This is the awesome switch. Even though it's not gonna do anything, we can switch it. That means power is now running to those 2 contacts, those 2 lugs. Let's go drill a hole in the micro cabin to pull those in and connect them to the power board. We're about to drill a hole into the floor, which is always a little nerve-wracking, to allow the cables from the combiner box to come inside. So I've got a multi-diameter drill bit here, my underminer bit. We're gonna use that just to size the hole for the cables to come in, and then we'll caulk that up later. We've got all the solar panels set up outside. So technically, now that the cables are run in the micro cabin through the hole, we're collecting solar power. We're just not storing it, and it's not in a form that we can really use right now. So we're getting about 150 volts of solar power, DC, direct current, from the panels. Your home and your appliances typically use AC, 120 volt power. So we need to store this power and convert it to power that we can actually use for our computers, our lights, our fans, our AC unit. That's what all this behind me is for. Continuous Resources made all this plug and play. This is the battery box. These are our 2 big lithium ion batteries. Both of these batteries generate about 51, 52 volts with 100 amp hour capacity. So these are the beefy batteries that store all the electricity that's collected from the solar panels. But to do that properly, they need help from the power board. This power board is just a big piece of plywood that's got a black coating on it. All the solar gadgets, if you will, are bolted on and wired together really tightly by Continuous Resources. That's what they do. Continuous Resources makes solar panel kits to make solar installs easier for novices like us, whether it's an RV or a big off-grid cabin. The power board has an inverter to convert the 50 volt, roughly 50 volt current from the batteries that's DC to 120 volt AC current that's gonna go to the breaker box to then go to our outlets and lights. Beyond the inverter, we've got a charge controller so we don't overcharge the batteries. We've also got DC output if we want to run 12 volt power. And we've even got a digital monitoring panel, which makes it pretty easy to see how the system's performing. There's even a Wi-Fi option to connect this power board to Wi-Fi so that Continuous Resources can diagnose and troubleshoot any issues with the power board and the solar panel setup. We know that some folks might not think that that's particularly off-grid, having your solar panel system connected to Wi-Fi, but we think it's pretty cool that Continuous Resources can monitor any issues and help us better run our system from abroad. The technical definition of off-grid means you're just not relying on public utilities. So if we've got rainwater or well water, if we're using instead of, mains water, if we're using a small wood stove instead of being connected to a gas line for heating our home, and if we're collecting electricity through solar, then technically we're off grid, even if we send some data back to make sure the system is running properly, which we think is awesome. All right, so without further ado, we need to be connecting these batteries to the power board. We need to be connecting the solar panel output to the power board, and then the power board's gonna be connected up to our breaker box. The power board is the center of the magic of the solar panel system. All right, let's start connecting.
Now we just scoot the battery box over.
Yep. Actually, before we connect the batteries to the bus bars, we're gonna connect these battery cables to the power board. So we are going to start with the positive cable right here, red. All right, let's get this tightened up. We need the batteries connected minus to minus, plus to plus. The batteries are switched to off, so there's no current coming out of the batteries. Orange is going on to positive. We'll put the protective caps back on. This is the 6 AWG heavier duty wire that's going to take the alternating current from the power board to the breaker box. We've got 3 wires in there. There's ground, positive, and then neutral. We've got to strip this. Then we've got to strip the wires underneath of it, attach contact lugs, and then use a heat vacuum to put the heat shrink around those lug contacts. So this is not a plug and play part. This is us dipping our toes into basic electrical work, but we're up for the challenge. So when we just have black and white, white's neutral, copper is ground, and this is hot, positive. I use some scissors to cut away the sheathing. They make plenty of wire strippers, but we're doing such a small job, we're just gonna use what we have. Then I've got these needle nose pliers. We're gonna expose the copper wiring underneath. We're gonna get the heat shrink. We'll take one black, one red. As a novice DIY electrician, not a certified or licensed electrician, I'm not gonna lie, the colors are a little confusing, but the internet's got plenty of great resources, so we are gonna be putting the red heat shrink on the black and the black heat shrink on the white, just because black is hot when white is neutral on this type of wire setup. So then there's the lug. This lug goes on the tip here, and then this lug would go here. So we're gonna take this lug, and now we're gonna crimp this lug down. This lug might be a little too big for this crimping tool, but we're gonna see how well this works. Yeah, I think it is a little undersized. The point is to stick it on there good, and that is on there good. We'll use the heat shrink, get the hair dryer, run the Delta EcoFlow.
The 2 minutes of using this hair dryer on high took 10% from that Delta EcoFlow.
Neutral, positive. And we're gonna need to put some green tape on there to mark that it's ground.
All right, so we're all done with that board right there.
Yeah, so the AC power coming out is hooked up. We just need to put a green sticker on the ground wire insulator, and now we can move the battery box into position to test.
Right up to the edge.
Yeah, right up to it, but not past it ideally. Now that we've got these heavy jumper cables connected to the power board, it's time to run them to the batteries and finish the battery setup. But first, when we got our last shipment of cables from Continuous Resources, we got something that I don't think many solar companies would send you. Matt sent us a list of puns to add to our dad joke repertoire. Joe and I both have young children. May I read the puns?
Go for it.
All right. What did the sushi say to the bee? Do you know? You do, because you already read it. What did the sushi say to the bee?
Wasabi!
Nice. What kind of shoes do frogs wear when camping in the summer?
Wait, I think I know this one. Open-toed shoes.
Open-toed shoes.
We read these earlier.
I was just so delighted to find these though. This is the kind of touch you get. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that you're gonna get puns with your solar setup like we did. Thank you, Matt. But working with a group that's smaller like Continuous Resources, in my opinion and experience, is always hands down better than working with some massive company where you gotta open, 5 or 6 support tickets before hearing from somebody and whatnot.
Yeah.
Final pun. What do you call an angry carrot? A steamed vegetable. All right, so pun's red. Let's get these batteries connected.
I feel my dad level increase.
Woo! Okay, so these are off. We have no current coming out of the batteries. We need to connect these jumpers from the power board to the actual lithium-ion batteries. All right, so this is negative. We'll put the protective cap back on to prevent unnecessary shocks. Now for the positive jumper. These jumpers are very satisfying to work with. Feel very heavy duty. These are securely attached. Now we've got to configure the batteries. Now we're going to connect the communication cable, the Ethernet cable, between the batteries. This is battery number 2 down here, so we're going to connect it in the far right port. We're going to connect this in the middle port. Now we need to connect the longer Ethernet cable to the servo communication display on the power board. So we'll connect this here to the CAN port, and then I need to pull this little punch out. These punches are pretty cool. You just twist them and then they'll break out for you to run cables through. We'll run this outside of this, and then the servo is actually just right here. We'll clean up these cables later. We just want to test it all and make sure that it's all going to work smooth first. There we go. So we've got servo, Ethernet, batteries are connected, power wall's connected. We need to configure the batteries. This battery is number 1, so we're going to switch dip switch 1 up. This battery down here is number 2, so we're going to switch number 2 up. I'm going to use something pointy like the scissors. Make sure none of the other switches are up. This is how the batteries monitor themselves with the servo system. Okie dokie. Let's test the batteries. Let's make sure these boot up. Green is always a good sign. We got the run sign blinking. They're fully charged. This ALM is the alarm. That's a warning label, warning light. Don't have those on, that's good. Let's go ahead and just put the cover back on these. It's gonna be a satisfying moment. This cover's got a magnetic click, so this whole thing will just click right on. Nice. Okay, so we can see the batteries in there. It's got a little dust on there. We'll have to dust that off. All right, let's go turn on the big switch for the solar panels. Pull the lever, Kronk! Emperor's New Groove? Anybody? Anybody? Oh,
That was rough.
look, if I was funny, I'd be on a stage being a comedian like Kevin Hart. I'm not funny though.
It's okay. We'll stick with our dad jokes. Wasabi!
Nice. Let's see, let's just run some tests here on the voltage coming out. This is the servo panel. We've got roughly 200 watts of power coming in from the photovoltaic panels. Batteries are charged at 100. Now we just need to get the inverter running and test that we've got power coming out of there. All right, so batteries are good. We're gonna flip the switch on the bottom of the inverter panel. The batteries are on, power is coming from the panels. You can see the servo is blinking. We've got a heads-up display on the AC power, the wattage coming in from the panels, and those are not properly angled at the sun yet, but we will get them there. Batteries were pre-charged at 100. This is a handy little tool for testing for 120 volt AC current. So we're gonna turn this pin on, and if we come test here, red means we're getting AC power. So we've got 120 volt alternating current in this cable here. This is the cable we're gonna connect up to the breaker box and then run smaller cables to the various outlets. For the final wiring to the breaker box and to the outlets, we're gonna turn off the panels, turn off the batteries, turn off the inverter, shut the whole system down to be extra safe. With the panels in place, the power board hooked up, the batteries functioning properly, and now the whole system shut down for safety, we're gonna finish wiring up the breaker box. We're running the cable from the power board into the breaker box, drilling through the studs, clamping down the positive and the negative and the ground wires from the cable from the power board. We're drilling through the studs to take wire to both of the outlets, and then we're installing the breakers, running the ground wire from the breaker box to the grounding rod. So with the grounding rod connected to the breaker box connected to the power board, and the breaker box connected to the 120 volt outlets. The final step we'll be taking is cutting gaps in our interior siding to expose the outlets and then expose the breaker box so we can access the outlets and breaker box, and then we're gonna run the final test to make sure we can power appliances. It's a grounding wire connected in. We're only gonna make this right side hot. We don't have a jumper yet, so we're not gonna add a jumper. Just gonna make this right side hot. Positive or hot, neutral, and then ground.
That was straightforward. So the wire comes through top, and then positive goes positive, neutral to neutral, ground to ground. Then you just slide the breakers in and connect up to the outlets, and we're good to go.
White on silver, brass on black, and then that is the grounding one. This is our first outlet ever. We learned how we're going to improve the next one. We need the outlet box to be further up, because right now you can see this faceplate's bending a little bit. We're gonna have to go back and bring this whole thing out a little bit. The cut we made works. We also learned the finish would look better if we just cut the rectangle out and left the edge if possible. We're gonna try that on the other side. None of our projects are ever perfect. We're living and learning and figuring it out. We'll dress this up with a smaller piece, pull this farther back. So this first run gave us some insight to on how to make the second outlet better. Man, I wish we did that on the other one. Okay, the wall panels are cut, the outlets are in. We're gonna run a few more tests to make sure we're getting current. We're gonna test the breakers. Then we're gonna finish propping up the solar panels, getting the grounding rod and the grounding line all installed. This test is kind of dumb because we're gonna use sunlight captured by solar panels, stored in the batteries, to generate 120 volt AC power to make more light. This is how we're testing the solar's working. Saving light to then generate more light. Our final step is going to be running the grounding wire out from the breaker box outside through the ingress-egress port on the micro cabin to the grounding rod that we've got hammered into the ground. So we're going to clip the tip of this off, get this bolted into the grounding bus bar, and then run this out the micro cabin. So we've got the grounding line coming out of the micro cabin. We're driving this grounding rod deep into this red Georgia clay. Then we've got a bolt to bolt on the grounding wire to the grounding rod, just as a safety precaution for any type of surge to follow the path of least resistance back to ground if there's a short anywhere in our electrical system. Often these grounding rods are fully buried. We're leaving this one exposed just to show you all how the bolt clips the grounding wire onto the grounding rod outside the micro cabin. We picked up some free pallets just as a temporary racking system for the solar panels. We want to angle the solar panels roughly 30 degrees. Our latitude here in Georgia is about 33 degrees. So roughly 30 degrees is going to give the solar panels maximum sunlight. You want your solar panels to be perpendicular to the sunlight coming in. That way you're able to capture as much solar energy as possible. These panels will live on a roof long term. It's going to be just a tin roof covered area on the final off-grid micro cabin location. But for now, we're just going to angle these pallets up about 30 degrees using some 2x4s. That way they'll perform better while we're testing the whole solar panel rig setup. The pallet solar panel mounts are not gorgeous. They're not going to win any beauty contests, but they're functional and they were basically free to test the system out, make sure we got it all figured out before the panels go up on the roof. Now the panels won't go on the micro cabin roof. We're going to build a tin roof covered area just for eating outdoors with a picnic table, just a rainproof area, and the panels will go up on that at the final micro cabin site. We've officially got the solar panel system working properly. We've got power coming from the 8 350 watt solar panels. That power is then going to the power board. The charge controller is charging up the batteries, ensuring they're not overcharged or undercharged. The battery power is then being taken to the inverter, where it's going from 50 volt DC power to 120 volt AC power, which is then going to the breaker box and then the two outlets where we're charging Ben's e-bike We can turn on various appliances, have a small air conditioning unit, refrigerator, laptop, lights, fans, you name it. Continuous Resources has been an amazing partner through this solar panel experience. Huge thank you from our team to yours, and we're just excited to begin our solar journey, with this being one of many different adventures, setting up the solar panels, refining things, and continuing to power our off-grid lifestyle using nothing but the sun.